On 7 October 1944, near Achmer, Hesepe, Luftwaffe pilots of Kommando Nowotny launched Messerschmitt Me 262 jets, unveiling a new era. The Me 262, reaching about 530 to 540 miles per hour at around 26,000 feet, outran all Allied fighters. Under Major Walter Nowotny's command, Germany sought to counter relentless Allied bombing campaigns. 8th and 15th Air Force raids devastated German industry, and piston-engine fighters faltered against P-51 Mustang escorts. The jet's speed promised a tactical breakthrough, a last stand against overwhelming odds. Yet challenges mounted. Jumo 00. 4 engines had a nominal overhaul window of 30 to 50 hours, but in practice, often only 10 to 25 hours under combat conditions. Fuel shortages slashed sortie rates, and Hitler's push for a fighter-bomber role weakened its interceptor mission. Scattered bases, limited pilot training, and strained maintenance hindered operations. At Achmer and Hesepe, Kommando Nowotny tested the jet against B-17 and B-24 formations. First Lieutenant Urban Drew, 375th Fighter Squadron, 361st Fighter Group patrolled nearby. Spotting 2 Me 262s in the landing pattern, he dove from 12,000 feet, downing both with .50 caliber guns, marking the first Allied double-jet kill. The jet's mystique wavered as Allies pinpointed its weakness, takeoff and landing where speed vanished. Allied fighter groups, recognizing the Messerschmitt Me 262's unmatched speed, recalibrated their tactics to exploit its operational limits. The jet's Jumo 004 engines, prone to flameouts during aggressive maneuvers, restricted pilots during takeoff and landing phases. United States Army Air Force's P-51 Mustang pilots escorting heavy bombers identified a critical vulnerability, the traffic pattern where jets slowed to 150 miles per hour at 1,000 feet. Squadrons like the 357th and 361st Fighter Groups organized patrols over known jet bases, timing interceptions to catch Me 262s at their weakest. Royal Air Force Tempest pilots, operating from forward airfields, executed rapid rat scrambles toward fields like Hopsten, aiming to ambush jets during initial climb. These missions faced intense German anti-aircraft fire, with losses rising as flak batteries thickened around jet runways. Allied tactics prioritized geometry and timing over futile pursuits. Pilots used altitude and sun position to conceal their approach, diving onto jets before they could accelerate to about 530 to 540 miles per hour. On 6 November 1944, Captain Charles Yeager of the 363rd Fighter Squadron, 357th Fighter Group, patrolled near Osnabrück at Achmer and Hesepe. Spotting an Me 262 on final approach, he dove from 12,000 feet, firing 6.50 caliber machine guns to destroy the jet before it landed. German pilots, emboldened by their speed, underestimated these calculated ambushes. The number that matters is timing. Intercepting jets at low altitude neutralized their 540 miles per hour advantage. Allied intelligence, leveraging decrypted signals and reconnaissance, mapped jet bases like Achmer and Hesepe, enabling precise patrols. These efforts turned the Me 262's operational rhythm into a liability as pilots faced relentless pressure in the circuit. Patrols grew more systematic as 1944 progressed. The 355th and 55th Fighter Groups joined the hunt, focusing on jet bases scattered across Germany. Pilots learned to anticipate the Me 262's predictable return paths, dictated by its 400-mile range at 20,000 feet. By positioning above airfields, Mustangs exploited the jet's low-speed phases, where its speed advantage evaporated. Royal Air Force units, despite heavy flak losses, refined their low-level sweeps targeting jets during takeoff or refueling. The constraint was engine reliability. Jumo 004 engines had a nominal overhaul window of 30 to 50 hours, but in practice, often only 10 to 25 hours under combat conditions. This forced Luftwaffe pilots to conserve thrust-slowing climbs and exposing them to attack. German commanders, aware of these weaknesses, tightened flak defenses, but Mustangs diving from high altitude often evaded gunfire. German ground crews, cursing the relentless Mustang silhouettes, struggled to protect jets on the ground. Allied pilots trained to chase conventional fighters adapted quickly to this new threat, studying reports of early successes like Urban Drew's double kill at Achmer, Hesepe. These lessons shaped a doctrine of patience and precision, avoiding high-speed chases in favor of ambushes where geometry ruled. The tactical shift proved devastating. By late 1944, United States and Royal Air Force units had downed dozens of Me-262s, most during takeoff or landing. The jets designed for high-altitude intercepts faltered in the circuit where tight turns and low speeds left them vulnerable. Allied escorts, equipped with long-range P-51s, maintained pressure on jet bases, disrupting Luftwaffe operations. Reconnaissance flights pinpointed fuel depots and maintenance sheds, which medium bombers like B-25s targeted to cripple jet readiness. The Me-262's operational tempo slowed as fuel shortages grounded aircraft for days. German pilots, once confident in their technological edge, faced a grim reality. Speed meant little when Mustangs controlled the skies above their runways. The 332nd Fighter Group, preparing for future missions, studied these tactics, readying for their own jet encounters. The Allies' relentless focus on timing and positioning transformed the Me-262 from a feared interceptor into a predictable target, its strengths undone by operational constraints and Allied adaptability. Allied pilots honing their anti-jet tactics transformed German airfields into perilous traps for Messerschmitt Me 262 pilots. The jet's operational range, 400 miles at 20,000 feet, forced predictable returns to bases like Achmer and Hopsten, where United States Army Air Force's P-51 Mustangs patrolled with lethal intent. On 25 February 1945, the 55th Fighter Group ambushed about 6 Me-262s during takeoff, destroying them with coordinated dives using .50 caliber machine guns. The Jumo 004 engines, critical to the jets about 500 to 30 to 540 miles per hour, speed faltered under strain. They had a nominal overhaul window of 30 to 50 hours, and in practice often only 10 to 25 hours under combat conditions. This limitation slowed climbs, leaving jets exposed to Allied attacks during initial ascent. Royal Air Force Tempest pilots pressed low-level sweeps, braving dense flak to disrupt jet operations at dispersal areas. Yeager 7, commanded by Oberst Johannes Steinhoff, struggled to counter these relentless ambushes. German pilots trained for high-altitude intercepts found themselves outmaneuvered in the landing circuit where Mustangs exploited altitude and surprise. German flak crews, cursing the diving P-51 silhouettes against the sky, fired barrages but rarely hit their agile targets. Allied tactics emphasized precision over pursuit, using geometry to negate the Me-262's speed advantage. The 357th Fighter Group, following Captain Charles Yeager's success near Osnabrück at Achmer and Hesepe, intensified patrols over jet bases, timing dives to catch jets at 150 miles per hour during approach. Intelligence reports derived from aerial reconnaissance and intercepted signals mapped Luftwaffe jet movements, enabling United States and Royal Air Force units to strike with devastating accuracy. The 361st Fighter Group, inspired by First Lieutenant Urban Drew's double kill at Achmer Hesepe, refined its ambush techniques, diving from 10,000 feet to exploit the jet's low-speed vulnerability. Royal Air Force Mosquitoes joined the campaign targeting jet fields at dusk to disrupt maintenance and refueling. The Luftwaffe's jet program, once a beacon of technological superiority, buckled under this pressure. Fuel shortages exacerbated by Allied strikes on depots grounded jets for days, slashing sortie rates. The number that matters is attrition. 1 jet lost per sortie crippled operations. German pilots, initially bold in their Me-262s, faced mounting losses as Allied escorts dominated the skies above their runways. The 332nd Fighter Group, preparing for high-stakes missions like the Berlin raid, studied these engagements, absorbing lessons from Yeager's and Drew's kills. United States medium bombers, including B-25s and B-26s, targeted jet infrastructure, cratering runways and destroying hangars. These strikes forced Luftwaffe ground crews to disperse aircraft, complicating maintenance and exposing jets to further attacks. By early 1945, the Me-262's operational tempo had slowed to a crawl, with pilots unable to sustain the high-speed intercepts they were trained for. Allied pilots, leveraging superior numbers and tactical adaptability, turned jet bases into kill zones where the Me-262's speed offered no protection. The systematic campaign of patrols, sweeps and bombings ensured that German jets, once a symbol of defiance, became predictable targets in the circuit. On 24 March 1945 over Berlin, the 332nd Fighter Group faced Messerschmitt Me 262s in a pivotal escort mission. Jagdgeschwader 7 under Oberst Johannes Steinhoff launched jets against a formation of B-17 and B-24 bombers, escorted by P-51 Mustangs from the 15th Air Force. The Me-262s, climbing to 25,000 feet, aimed to slash through the bomber stream, leveraging their about 530 to 540 miles per hour speed. Captain Roscoe C. Brown Jr., First Lieutenant Earl R. Lane, and First Lieutenant Charles V. Brantley flying P-51Ds engaged the jets during their attack runs. Each pilot downed an Me-262, using tight turns and altitude advantage to outmaneuver the faster jets in the circuit. The 332nd's kills, executed with .50 caliber machine guns, earned a distinguished unit citation for precision under pressure. The Me-262's speed offered no shield when pilots misjudged their egress paths. German jet pilots scanning for escorts realized too late Mustangs held the high ground above Berlin. The mission exposed the Luftwaffe's dwindling capacity. Jagdgeschwader 7 lost several jets, while the Allied bomber formation suffered minimal losses. The Me-262's operational range, 400 miles at 20,000 feet, forced predictable returns to bases where P-51s waited. Allied tactics, patrolling jet airfields, striking fuel depots, and timing interceptions eroded the Luftwaffe's jet strength. United States medium bombers B-25s and B-26s targeted runways and hangars, crippling jet operations. Fuel shortages, a constant constraint, grounded jets for days at a time. The number that matters is logistics. No fuel meant no sorties. The 332nd's success built on earlier lessons from First Lieutenant Urban Drew's double kill at Achmer, Hesepe, and Captain Charles Yeager's ambush near Osnabrück at Achmer and Hesepe. These pilots had shown that timing and geometry trumped raw speed. By diving from 10,000 feet, the 332nd's pilots caught jets at 100 to 50 miles per hour, where maneuverability mattered more than velocity. Allied intelligence played a critical role, using decrypted signals to track Jagdgeschwader 7's movements. Reconnaissance flights pinpointed jet bases, enabling precise strikes by fighters and bombers. The 357th and 55th Fighter Groups intensified patrols, ensuring no jet base remained safe. Royal Air Force units, including Tempest and Mosquito squadrons, joined the campaign, striking dispersal areas at dusk to disrupt maintenance. The Me-262, once a symbol of German technological prowess, became a liability under this relentless pressure. Luftwaffe pilots trained for high-altitude intercepts struggled in the landing pattern where Mustangs dictated the fight. The Berlin mission underscored a stark reality. Allied adaptability had turned the jet's strengths into weaknesses, forcing German pilots into predictable, vulnerable patterns. The 332nd's triumph, alongside earlier kills by Yeager and Drew, cemented the P-51's dominance, proving that tactical precision could defeat even the fastest adversary. Allied air forces escalated their campaign against Messerschmitt Me-262 bases, blending fighter sweeps with precise bomber strikes to choke Luftwaffe operations. The 357th and 55th Fighter Groups, equipped with P-51D Mustangs, patrolled dispersal areas, targeting jets during takeoff or landing phases. On 18 March 1945, Jagdgeschwader 7 launched 37 Me-262s against a massive Allied formation of over 1,200 bombers, escorted by 600 P-51s. The jets downed several B-17s, but escorts retaliated, destroying multiple Me-262s, with .50 caliber gunfire during low-speed vulnerabilities. Runways became lethal traps. United States B-25 and B-26, medium bombers cratered landing strips, while armed reconnaissance missions struck fuel trucks and maintenance sheds. The Me-262s, range 400 miles at 20,000 feet, forced pilots into predictable return paths, where Mustangs waited in ambush. Engine maintenance hobbled operations. Jumo 004 engines had a nominal overhaul window of 30 to 50 hours, and in practice, often only 10 to 25 hours under combat conditions. Luftwaffe ground crews stretched beyond capacity, struggled to keep jets airworthy under relentless Allied attacks. German pilots cursing the Mustang's diving attacks from 10,000 feet found no sanctuary in the landing circuit. Royal Air Force mosquitoes intensified the pressure, striking jet fields at dusk to disrupt repairs and refueling. Allied intelligence leveraging decrypted Luftwaffe communications, pinpointed jet movements, enabling coordinated strikes. The 361st Fighter Group, building on First Lieutenant Urban Drew's success at Achmer Hesepe, perfected ambush tactics, diving onto jets at 150 miles per hour during approach. The 55th Fighter Group's ambush destroying about 6 Me-262s on 25 February 1945 underscored the effectiveness of targeting takeoff phases. Fuel scarcity worsened by Allied raids on depots, grounded jets for weeks, slashing sortie rates. The constraint was logistics, no fuel, no missions. The systematic campaign transformed jet bases into kill zones. P-51 pilots trained to exploit the Me-262's weaknesses avoided high-speed chases, focusing instead on geometric precision. By maintaining altitude and using the sun to mask their dives, they negated the jet's about 530 to 540 miles per hour speed advantage. The 332nd Fighter Group, fresh from their Berlin triumph, integrated these tactics, preparing for further jet encounters. Royal Air Force Tempests, despite heavy flak losses, pressed low-level sweeps, disrupting jet operations at bases like Hopsten. The Luftwaffe's jet program, once a symbol of technological superiority, faltered as Allied pressure exposed its operational flaws. Pilots like Captain Charles Yeager and Urban Drew had demonstrated a clear truth: attacking jets where speed mattered, least in the circuit, turned the Me-262 into a predictable target, its vaunted speed irrelevant against disciplined tactics and overwhelming numbers. The Messerschmitt Me 262's aura of invincibility crumbled as Allied tactics dismantled its operational effectiveness. Its speed, about 530 to 540 miles per hour, at around 26,000 feet, dominated high-altitude passes, but United States Army Air Force's pilots reshaped the battlefield. They targeted takeoff, landing, and climb-out phases, where jets slowed to 150 miles per hour at low altitude, stripping away their speed advantage. P-51 Mustangs, diving from 10,000 feet, unleashed .50 caliber machine gun fire, catching jets before they could accelerate. German pilots trained for high-speed intercepts faltered in the landing circuit, where geometry and surprise outweighed raw velocity. Luftwaffe commanders watching jets burn on runways cursed the Allies' precise timing. Most kills occurred during these vulnerable moments, not in prolonged level pursuits. The 55th Fighter Group's destruction of about 6 Me-262s during takeoff on 25 February 1945 cemented this reality. Fuel shortages worsened by Allied strikes on depots, grounded half the jet fleet at times. Jumo 004 engines, rated for 30 to 50 hours between overhauls, but often only 10 to 25 hours in combat, forced conservative climb and throttle settings. Allied pilots, leveraging intelligence from decrypted signals and reconnaissance, patrolled bases like Achmer, Hesepe, and Munich, where Jagdgeschwader 7 and Jagdverband 44 operated. The 357th Fighter Group, inspired by Captain Charles Yeager's ambush near Osnabrück at Achmer and Hesepe, perfected diving attacks exploiting the jet's predictable return paths, dictated by its 400-mile range. Royal Air Force Mosquitoes and Tempests struck dispersal areas at dusk, disrupting maintenance and refueling, while United States B-25 and B-26 bombers cratered runways, forcing jets to scatter. The Me 262, designed as a high-altitude interceptor, became a sitting target on the ground or in the circuit. German pilots, once confident in their technological edge, faced relentless pressure. Jagdverband 44, led by Oberstleutnant Adolf Galland in the war's final months, attempted to sustain jet operations, but attrition and fuel scarcity crippled their efforts. Maintenance limits capped sortie rates. Allied tactics evolved into a relentless campaign of attrition. The 361st Fighter Group building on First Lieutenant Urban Drew's double kill at Achmer Hesepe refined ambush precision diving from high altitude to catch jets at low speed. The 332nd Fighter Group's success over Berlin on 24 March 1945, where Captain Roscoe C. Brown Jr., First Lieutenant Earl R. Lane, and First Lieutenant Charles V. Brantley each downed a jet, underscored the effectiveness of these tactics. By focusing on the circuit where jets were most vulnerable, Allies negated the Me 262's speed advantage. Reconnaissance missions pinpointed fuel trucks and hangars, which medium bombers systematically destroyed. Royal Air Force sweeps, though costly due to flak, disrupted jet operations at bases like Hopsten. The Luftwaffe's jet program, once a symbol of German defiance, became a case study in operational failure. Pilots, ground crews, and commanders faced an inescapable truth. The Me 262's speed was irrelevant when Mustangs controlled the skies above their runways, turning the jet into a predictable, vulnerable target. Through April 1945, Jagdgeschwader 7 and Jagdverband 44 pressed Messerschmitt Me 262 operations, but Allied air superiority crushed their efforts. Fuel scarcity, worsened by relentless United States and Royal Air Force, strikes on depots limited sorties to a handful daily grounding jets for weeks. The 357th and 332nd Fighter Groups flying P-51D Mustangs maintained unyielding patrols over jet bases, destroying Me 262s on the ground and in the air. United States B-25 and B-26 medium bombers cratered runways, while armed reconnaissance missions targeted fuel trucks and hangars, crippling Luftwaffe logistics. The Me 262's range 400 miles at 20,000 feet, forced pilots into predictable patterns where Mustangs waited with .50 caliber firepower. German pilots, once bold in their jet's 540 miles per hour speed, faced a grim reality. Speed meant nothing in the landing circuit. Luftwaffe ground crews, exhausted by constant attacks, struggled to maintain Jumo 004 engines, which had a nominal 30 to 50-hour overhaul window, often only 10 to 25 hours in combat. Case studies from First Lieutenant Urban Drew's double kill at Achmer Hesepe, Captain Charles Yeager's ambush near Osnabrück at Achmer and Hesepe, and the 332nd Fighter Group's Berlin triumphs on 24 March 1945 revealed a consistent truth. Jets fell when speed mattered least. Drew's dive from 12,000 feet onto two Me 262s, Yeager's precise attack on a jet at 150 miles per hour during approach, and the 332nd's coordinated kills over Berlin showed how geometry and timing outmatched raw velocity. German pilots cursing the Mustang's relentless dives found no refuge in the circuit. Royal Air Force Mosquitoes and Tempests, striking at dusk, further disrupted jet operations targeting dispersal areas and maintenance sheds. Allied intelligence using decrypted signals tracked Jagdverband 44's movements under Oberstleutnant Adolf Galland, ensuring no base remained safe. The number that matters is attrition. One jet lost per sortie decimated the fleet. By May 1945, the Me 262's impact was negligible, its bases reduced to rubble. The P-51's long-range escort system, refined over years, held firm to the war's end, enabling bombers to pound German industry with minimal interference. Jagdgeschwader 7 and Jagdverband 44, despite their advanced technology, could not overcome fuel shortages, ground attacks, and Allied tactical precision. The Me 262, once a symbol of Luftwaffe defiance, became a cautionary tale of operational failure. United States and Royal Air Force pilots, leveraging altitude surprise and relentless pressure, turned jet airfields into kill zones. The systematic campaign fighter sweeps, bomber strikes, and reconnaissance missions ensured the Me-262's speed was irrelevant when Mustangs dominated the skies above runways. Allied pilots from Yeager to the 332nd's Captain Roscoe C. Brown Jr., First Lieutenant Earl R. Lane, and First Lieutenant Charles V. Brantley proved that disciplined tactics could defeat even the most advanced adversary, grounding Germany's jet hopes in the war's final days.